What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome back to the Mechwarrior 5 Clans story-driven campaign playthrough with stock mechs only, allowing for hero mechs as long as we don't have any custom configurations. So, we are on to part 27, trucking right along. When you consider the fact that we did 2 missions in part 1 for the Huntress tutorial arc, that means we have really 28 missions in this campaign thus far, and we're not off of Courchevel yet. So, we are making steady progress forward in figuring out who these mystery raiders are that are trying to steal our technology. So strap in and prepare for drop. Alright, let's investigate a crater.
After that mess at the Jarden spaceport, I tasked the second Jaguar regulars with finding our mystery raiders. One binary reported having contacted at least a reinforced company's worth of hostile mechs before we lost contact. The Watch has informed us that the closest former DCMS base to their last known position is a facility that Courchevel planetary records call only Aritzuka, or the Ant Hill. Demi-Percenter, what can you tell us of this facility?
Not much, I'm afraid. After the War of 3039, the DCMS spent a decade building hidden strongholds, weapon caches, and logistic centers across their border worlds to better prepare themselves for another invasion by the Federated Commonwealth. All Comstar knows is that this facility was built within a series of impact craters. Nothing else.
Is that it?
Hi, it is. Courchevel has been a strategic asset to the Combine for only 15 years. It was a backwater before then. So we do not have verifiable intelligence on newer facilities such as this.
I do not want the ISF, the DCMS, or whoever is behind this to believe they have the upper hand. Cobalt, the Jaguar regulars have proven themselves ill-suited to handling these raiders on their own. I want you and elements of the 362nd to take point on investigating these raiders. Go and investigate this Aritzuka. Acquire any data that may help you infiltrate the facility and make those responsible pay for this infraction. Am I understood?
Star Colonel.
Alright, definitely don't trust Comstar about this data, but that's okay. We have 3 Warhawks, an Executioner, and a Gargoyle walk into a crater. Or several. So, what we got here is the Warhawk Prime I'm piloting. And then we have Yuichi in a Omnipod variant. I forget which variant it is, but it's an official variant. Remember, this is stock mechs only, including hero Omnipod sets. But he has 2 large pulse lasers and 2 ERPPCs. Naomi's in the Hero Warhawk Omnipod set, and Naomi's in the Executioner Hero. And then I have Ezra in the Gargoyle. I forget which configuration it is, but it's one of the alternate configurations. So here we are on Courchevel, and it looks pretty different from the Courchevel we've seen thus far, really. You think I'd be able to remember if we've seen this kind of biome on Courchevel before in the campaign? I don't think we have, so that's pretty cool. And this is kind of our introduction to it. I like the vegetation being different. I like the it's very kind of not hot springy, but what do you call those, like sulfur springs or whatever that we see in like certain national parks or certain parks across the globe or whatever. I like that look. It's just different, and it's a pretty stark contrast to the mountainous, rocky terrain that we've been used to in Courchevel. So I like that as well, because a planet can be diverse. I mean, look at Earth; it's pretty diverse. So what we got going on here is a little bit of recon in force, you could say. We don't know what happened to the Jaguar regulars. We presume they're wiped out, and we're going to be pretty correct in that presumption. So we got to figure out what's going on. We are going to, as I blow up an industrial mech, be encountering some pretty heavy mech tonnage right off the back. An Enforcer, I believe Enforcer are medium mechs. I forget exactly because I never really used an Enforcer myself ever. But we have a Warhammer that's already hurting pretty bad. That's a heavy mech. We're going to have an Orion, and there's going to be a Cyclops assault mech coming in. It's going to be some tonnage right off the bat here. But we are also a full star of assault mech, so we're going to be able to dish out some pretty good tonnage as well, and firepower in spades because we have superior technology. So the Jaguar regulars aren't necessarily a frontline assault force. It's not that they can't. It's just that, as you would expect in kind of a force in a military operation, you're going to have things that break the door open, and you have things that secure that door. So we are a frontline unit, whereas the regulars, I don't really believe that they are. I could be mistaken. So they're sent to do stuff, and when they really can't handle it, frontline units come in and take it out. So here we are. Now, as far as lore goes for non-frontline units, what you call kind of second-line units, they don't have Omni-Mechs in as the same numbers as frontline units do. We pretty much are going to be exclusively in Omni-Mechs, where the second-line mechs will make use of standard clan battle mechs. The clans don't just have Omni-Mechs. They have plenty of standard clan battle mechs. And second-line units tend to make use of those with some Omni-Mechs. Sometimes they are really older variants of Omni-Mechs. Other times, it's just they happen to have like a Timberwolf or a few Timberwolves amongst, a bunch of standardized clan battle mechs. I don't know if you noticed, but Cyclops had a sword, so it's a good thing we took it out before I got too close. And we are just clearing out the first of the craters. So we started off not knowing who we're fighting, right? Necessarily. When we dropped in this mission, we just knew them as Raiders. So now we know them as Curitans, and we're going to see the name of this unit pop up in the top corner of our screen. I don't know if that was a whoopsie in the case of the campaign, or if it's just kind of organic, I don't want to say storytelling, but our kind of like organic progression of discovery as we encounter more of these mechs and we're able to get a ping off of their IFFs transponders. But we will see as we get to nav point Bravo, if my star ever navigates. I do believe I told them to defend a position earlier, so that's why I don't think they join me right away, but sometimes you gotta wonder with the way the AI can operate. Much improved AI in comparison to even Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries, but still, it's AI. Anyways, as you can see, now we know that we are facing the 5th ALAG forces if you read your mission objectives. So, we don't get some crazy mid-mission exposition or anything like that. We just see, I guess, what our transponders have tagged. And, or what our computers have tagged in terms of enemy mech transponders. So we are dealing with some force known as the 5th ALAG. We'll learn more about them next mission. So I'm not going to spoil it and bog down the video here with that exposition for you. But it's pretty cool because if you've done the DLC for Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries that's out, one of them, you basically fight alongside the 5th ALAG. So that's actually kind of cool to see it kind of come full circle. And it's not unexpected, truthfully, in terms of if you know the lore of what's going on here, because this is written like decades ago. So everything that's going on, we basically know about it. We're just seeing it more fleshed out and having fun with it in video game form, which is cool. So as a result, we are not necessarily breaking new ground and dealing with something we've never heard of before, but if you're unfamiliar or newer to the lore, it's just cool to see that full circle nature, even if you do know the lore. So I like that. In any case, lots of tonnage coming our way. I like to kind of skirt around the perimeter here, because going down into the basin or into the crater itself is not bad, right? It's not the worst thing in the world, especially because, to take that risk, you have water down there to really cool your mech faster, which is very nice, but you do get shot more, you're more exposed. Where here we have buildings in the way and the crater itself, so we're dealing with the Thunderbolt, we're dealing with the Archer. What I'm doing right now is I did a quick scan of my allies to see how damaged they are. You do have the numbers, as you can see down in the bottom corner of the screen there on the bottom left, but it doesn't tell you exactly how the damage is applied, right? Because the mech, let's say the mech only took a hit in his left torso, and that's all the only place it's being hit. It's until it breaches into structure, it may not be that low on percentage, and then all of a sudden the percentage might drop or even not be that low, all things considered, even though it has structure showing it. So you want to kind of scan and see things at times just to try to see, especially when you see you have repair bays here. So that's what I was doing. I ventured down into the thick of it so I can just spam fire ERPPCs. They are my favorite weapon in Battletech, so anytime I get a chance to just not worry about heat and make use of them, I will. But it does mean that I am taking extra hits than I need to, and I actually have an armor blow through. So my center torso just got blown through, and I took some structure damage. It's minimal, so it's not the end of the world, but I wouldn't have done that if I was playing a little bit smarter. So do that at your own risk. So what I'm going to do is have Mia repair, because she is the lowest aside from me. Naomi's actually doing pretty well, all things considered. The Executioner, and the reason why I'm not using one in this mission, for example, is because its center torso is not the best in terms of armor. Now, I understand that, you know, they're not making it up, right? We have battle values and stuff to go off of and use when it comes to, you know, mech stats and whatnot in these games, you know, based on the actual Battletech game. But I just feel like the Executioner is a little bit too light in the center torso department for my tastes. I don't know if I ever see a patch for that or whatever, but amongst things like the autocannons feeling they could use a little bit more of a beefiness to them, in my opinion, I do think the Executioner could stand to have its center torso just be beefed up a little bit, because it definitely seems a little light. It's 10 tons heavier than a Warhawk, but the Warhawk is tankier because of its center torso being better. So, you know what I mean? Not every mech needs to be the tankiest of all tankies, but for something that's 10 tons heavier, I would expect it to have, in some capacity, a better, what's the word I'm looking for? A better survivability in its center torso. Anyways, as we just learned, we're missing 5 of our down regulars, and we know they didn't escape, so they probably are trying to salvage them. We need to stop that. Regardless of how much tech they have of ours at this point, anytime we get to stop it, the better. And by ours, I mean the clans in general. This is a war, after all. This is an invasion. No clan's going to get through it unscathed. You don't need to lose a world entirely or have a complete utter defeat like Smoke Jaguar and Jade Falcon have at this point, to have your mechs get salvaged by the enemy as scavengers. So that is why, you know, whatever you can limit your tech being taken by the enemy, the better. Obviously, the Inner Sphere is going to have access to our tech by scavenging, and also because of Walcott, etc. So they're all going to be able to use it against us or try and make improvements to their own technology. But one thing I can tell you is that regardless of what they do, clan technology is always just going to be better in some capacity. So this is our second mission in a row where we are dealing with an enemy dropship. Luckily, it's just an Inner Sphere dropship. It's not clan tech on there, so that's good in terms of what we have to fight. But we do have to fight it. Spoilers, I guess, but you probably figured that out by it sitting there ominously. As a result, what I like to do is try to skirt the perimeter in the beginning. We're going to do a crescent moon style of movement here. So we're sticking to the outside, right? We're skirting to the left here to get towards this mech bay, staying on the outskirts, shooting at things at, you know, at range and kind of flushing them out towards us and taking them down as they approach. And then what we're going to do is we're going to double back to the right, but we're going to cut closer to the dropship, use the water to our advantage that's there as we continue to cut through the enemy. So a little bit of tactics, if you will. You could do a complete 180 around the perimeter from mech bay to mech bay, more or less, or repair bay to repair bay, more or less, and achieve the same results. I just decided to do this because I wanted to use the water. So, the 5th A-Lag, it's not ISF, although it could definitely be responding to ISF orders, right? There's always that. In hindsight, I probably should have sent Naomi to repair, even though Ezra is a little bit more hurt than Naomi. Not by too much, but because of the fact that it's an Executioner with weaker center torso. I feel the Gargoyle is even tankier than the Executioner. It's at least for this game. So it feels a bit weird to me. I could be mistaken, but it definitely feels that way. So it probably would have been more advantageous to have Naomi go in there. But I didn't. So here we go. In any case, like I said, the ISF could be ordering the ALAG to do things, more than likely are. But and knowing that they are the fifth ALAG, even if you know nothing about that, that sounds more official than something like a pirate or a raider group trying to get tech further on, the grubby hands on our tech for making profit or whatever. This sounds more like an actual military force of the Draconis Combine because, well, it is. So we have that, right? That's pretty interesting. That does mean that we are dealing with something more organized than just militia or raiders, and clearly we can see that in the form of just the amount of equipment they can bring to bear, the quality of the equipment. Right, we're not looking at like a locust and a flea and cicadas and whatnot. We're looking at hunchbacks and marauders, and we're looking at banshees. We're looking at some real tonnage coming our way and real enemies. Equipment being more so than a ragtag force. So this is clearly something with some skill and capability and organization, a full-on military force, which means we need to crush it. And to be honest, we are doing a pretty good job of that already. I do not know how long they've been on Courchevel. I do not know when they first got here, but we know that they've definitely had some time to get established here. And now we are going to dismantle that. So all things considered, they may have gotten the gotten here and kind of gotten the edge of getting here undetected, but they've been discovered, and now, quite frankly, they're doing all they can to pack up any equipment and get out of Dodge, it seems like, or at the very least get equipment out of Dodge. So this is going to turn into a very different fight now that we have a name to put to the forces, which means we can confront Comstar for more information, which is going to further show why we shouldn't trust them, but I'll let that play out when we get there. I like the rifleman, but it is weak in the armor department for a heavy mech, so whenever you see a rifleman, even if you just focus on a side torso to cripple it, because you take out the side torso, you take out that associated arm, that'll go pretty quick on a rifleman. In any case, what I'm doing now is making my way to the repair bay. Again, could have had Naomi repair or somebody else repair. I probably would have sent Naomi at this point, all things considered, but I didn't because I do suspect to face tank things, and I figured let me just play it a bit safer for me. And the reason I keep harping on Naomi is not because I'm trying to make the Executioner out as a bad mech. It's really good, actually, but the fact that this is a video game in which you're going to have typical video game tropes happen, where the enemy focuses a bit more on you and whatnot, I decided to play it a bit safer, and especially because we do have a dropship that we're going to have to deal with. In any case, they just took out that Marauder. Interesting thing is that when you're repairing with an enemy selected, even when it's destroyed, it doesn't just clear out of your targeting instantly, as you saw. So I'm gonna take on this Hunchback, but I'm not gonna take it out. All I'm gonna do is get its side torso damaged enough where I see that the what do you call it? The autocannon is taken care of. So I almost crippled it. My allies did the rest, and I focused on a whole nother map. Stuff like that can help you quickly turn a battle that feels like it's going to be more even paced to your side. Just being able to selectively cripple parts of the enemy mechs and move on while your star cleans up the rest. So now the dropship's sending us some mechs, and don't forget the dropship will power up. This Banshee is definitely a bit stronger. It's got a lot more equipment, so we want to really hit it. It's kind of crazy the difference in Banshee variants that are out there. The Victor isn't something I'm most worried about. It does have an AC-20. We do want to be careful about that. But I'm not as worried about that as I am a Banshee or even an Awesome. So I got to prove to the Awesome that while it is Awesome, it's no Warhawk because I have one extra PPC than it does. So I clearly am better. And once we establish that dominance, we can move on. But so now we have the Union, as I just said, but there's a fresh Stalker here. So I'm going to focus on the Stalker, honestly. Really what I try to do is take out the mechs before focusing on the dropship, or depending upon how many mechs are left, I'll have my star focus on a dropship subsystem and I'll finish off the mechs. But once we take out the ground forces, we can really focus on this dropship. The dropship is still dangerous. It's not clan tech dangerous, and it's not Mechwarrior 4 dropship dangerous. I feel the dropships you fight in Mechwarrior 4 are tougher to deal with because they hit a lot harder, to be honest. But they're still dangerous nonetheless, so be careful. Don't overexpose yourself to different subsystems on the dropship. But we're halfway there to finishing off this mission. We can see Naomi is definitely hurting now. Once I notice that in the game, I'm going to be trying to scan her mech to see how bad it is, which I'm trying to do right now and cycle through. It doesn't necessarily cycle through the way I would like it to, like it has in some other games. But it's also a pain to cycle through your own allied forces to target in Mercenaries too. But as you can see, her center torso is pretty hurting. So she almost had to eject there, but she survived. So that is kind of par for the course with Executioners, I find, when they start taking hits. But they're still a great chassis. Anyways, we're almost done with this Union, and then we will have taken a Union. They took one of our Unions, we're going to take one of theirs, plus we took down a bunch of their forces and took away one of their locations of operation. So in short order, we are effectively dismantling this whole operation when you consider the fact that they went from trying to get stuff off planet to now they're still trying to do that, but they were a force that we didn't know about trying to get stuff off world, to now they're a force that's being systematically beaten back. So for all of their covert operations, they seem to have not much to show for it. And we're doing pretty good, all things considered, right? How they got in the world is, I think, part of the whole Inner Sphere's covert operation capabilities. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We have mighty clan tech, and we're going to push them back. But missions are going to get a whole lot more brutal. That's for sure. I don't mean in terms of difficulty. Obviously, difficulty ramps up as we get further in a campaign. I mean brutal in terms of story and whatnot. So, with that taken care of, we get some pilot experience. I'm going to manage my salvage components a little bit. One thing I will say, take every mech component you can in the end game, which we're basically in for the most part, because as you saw, I had very little mech component, and I find that to be the lowest in terms of salvage you're going to get in terms of component number. So anytime you can maximize mech components, I would recommend doing so. So I like to try and aside from defensive stuff, I also like to do heating effectiveness, and I also focus on energy weapons predominantly because that's just the way I roll. Don't forget to also check out your barracks and give any experience expenditure to the way you want to. I'm holding off on Yuichi. I want to get him to Evasion 5, but everybody else I'm expending just how I want to kind of build up their skill set. And by this point, I've been pretty maxed out when it comes to repair facilities, so I'm not really worried about repair unless we get super, super critical and all our mechs, we should be fine. But it all depends on how you are spending your merit points up to this point. I think by this point, you should have maxed out efficiency and all that, so you should be pretty good. Anyways, with that said, we're going to save and move on to the next mission. Thanks for stopping by. We are making steady progress, and until next time, take care.